Prepare yourself for List Off, the gaming podcast where your hosts, Brian and Ryan, rank the things they love. 3, 2, 1, List Off!
Put on your tinfoil hats and scour the internet for clues, because we are here to discuss the top 10 conspiracy theories in video games. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great, Ryan. That was beautiful.
Thank
I love
you.
the tinfoil
You always
hats.
say it's beautiful. You always say it's beautiful. I
It is.
appreciate
It
that.
always is.
It's very encouraging. It's very encouraging. Makes me
It's my
feel like I
job.
could do anything.
You can.
Wow. Oh my
You
gosh.
can even spew conspiracy theories if you really put your mind to it.
Apparently anyone can.
Yeah, that's what I found out at least.
Same. So how you doing? Do you have a good week? You play any games?
I did. I had a good week. I probably played a match of Halo.
Really?
Not too much.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but yeah, I did not jump in too much. But yeah, that game continues to be fantastic. We are days away from the campaign and the full launch of Halo Infinite. And I was lamenting not getting any games for Black Friday because there were some great deals.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some just like looking at numbers, and I calculated that I could have gotten like 4 PS5 games for like $110.
Mm-hmm.
And I they're physical, so like I'm not gonna get it.
You should have done it. I'm just saying, like,
I know.
You have the disc drive on your PS5.
I know.
Like, use it, man. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
it's silly, but yeah, now the games are $70 again, so I can spend some mad money on that if I really want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, Halo, that's about it.
Yeah.
What about you? Anything?
Yeah. So lots of Halo, more Halo. I did start trying to get my rank. So I played about 5 games towards my rank, but the last 3 I was playing terribly, and I found myself getting frustrated with the game. So I ended up stop trying for my rank.
So you didn't place?
I didn't place yet, but
okay.
I will continue to go for that. Like,
sure.
I definitely want. I wanted to come to this episode like my rank is this, but I'm not. So here I am. But my wife saw that I was getting frustrated with Halo, and she said, "Do you want to play Overcooked?" And I turned to her and I said, absolutely not. Like,
that
if you
is
think,
like,
if you think Halo's frustrating me, what?
That is jumping from
bad to worse.
The frying pan to the fire.
Exactly. But I took it as a sign that she wanted to play video games with me. And I said, why don't we play It Takes Two?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had an opportunity to jump into that, and it's very, very well constructed. I only played through the first level, like defeated the first boss. Really fun. It starts out and it's kind of like, okay, like, it's not the most fun story to begin with, right? It's 2 people.
It's about divorce, right?
Right. So I'm sitting there like next to my wife on the couch, like, we're good, right, Eddie?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm kidding. But we're solid, right? But like, it's funny. But I love the way the gameplay is constructed, because even in the first, hour or so that we played, everything just naturally requires communication. The way the puzzles are structured, it's like you always have to communicate. Oh, okay, I'm going to go do this thing, you do that thing. And it does very much like breed conversation, which is great. Like, that's the point of it, I think.
Sure.
And it was a lot of fun to play with her. Like I said, made it through the first boss, which was defeated in like a kind of like horrifyingly graphic way, kind of surprising. Like, granted, it's an inanimate object that is now animated, but still, it's like you don't feel good about the way you take out this vacuum.
Right.
So,
oh, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't anyway. But that was pretty much it aside from Halo. I do plan on getting into it, and we'll see if it makes my Game of the Year list. I didn't think I would have had an opportunity to play it prior to the year ending, but here we are.
Right. One quick aside. You're saying that if you and I played It Takes Two, it could very well mean the end of List Off, because we would not survive it.
I think List Off would just go stronger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I'm having a lot of fun playing with my wife. It requires communication, but none of it is so obtuse that there are like any there's no breeding ground for arguments. It's really just a joy to play so far. So that's like, none of the puzzles are that difficult to figure out, but they're fun to figure out, and that's a really good thing. Like, that's a really good balance to reach, right? It's not the easiest thing to do, but so far so good with that.
Cool.
Aside from that, I have been listening to some soundtracks.
Ooh, you know, that's my forte, right?
Well, yeah, it's come up a few times on the podcast. I do think you and I discussed one a few weeks ago that I quickly want to shout out that we have not mentioned on the podcast, I think, and that's Banjo-Kazooie Rejiggied.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super cool, super fun.
It's Grant Kirkhope, right?
Grant Kirkhope, yeah. And it is just awesome. Like, they have like a ska, they do like a ska version of the track. And yeah, it's just really, really well
I was actually
done.
listening to it today.
It's
fantastic.
I was too.
Nice.
I was, on the drive. So that's one of the ones I've been listening to. Another one, there's been 2 recent episodes that I heard about the game Hades, your 2020 Game of the Year.
Sure.
One of them was done by Tales from the Backlog, and the other one was done by friend of the podcast, Keith from the Main Quest. And man, it really made me want to start listening to the Hades soundtrack again. And it is so good. Like, there's just so many good tracks on there. One in particular, Good Riddance, the duet is just like, oh man, chef's kiss. Like, really, really good. Funny because it actually makes like death sound comforting in some ways, which I always like when things can do that. You know, people fear death. It's a natural thing to fear it. God, here I am, right? We're a gaming podcast, not trying to get depressing here, but it's just sometimes people have this really interesting take on it that brings you like a semblance of peace, that there might be peace in it, right?
I mean, that's the thing.
This track
it's like
that.
We as humans struggle with that. I mean, there's no way to know. We're not equipped to understand it. Yeah. So to see someone who is on the other side kind of contend with that and say, like, listen, here's what happens. It's not that bad. I could see that being some peace. Right.
Plus, it is like death is definitely tied to gaming. Like, it happens all the time. So definitely relevant. So the other one I've been listening to, so I've been like working out a little more. It's okay, Brian. Ooh. I'm not offended that you haven't noticed my svelte figure here. I'm not offended. It's fine.
All I can see is like your head.
I know. Right. But if you ever want something done, all you ever have to do is listen to the Doom soundtrack from 2016, and you will rip and tear your way through any obstacle. And like, man, it slaps. Like, this soundtrack legitimately slaps in almost every way. It's like track after track just gets you so pumped. I don't know. Sometimes if I'm like walking or jogging, I can't help but go faster listening to this music. It has that effect on you, and it's so good. The music is just so good.
The one thing that's weird about it is it has those like interludes where it's like, and the Slayer
Right.
was born and
Yeah.
wrought havoc upon all the lands.
And if you met his blade, yeah, he was known as the Doom Slayer.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff though, man. I love it. It gets you more pumped. That stuff almost just gets you like more amped.
I am the Doom Slayer.
Right. Like, yeah, get out of my way. I'm walking here.
That's the cool thing in like Doom and Doom Eternal is, I mean, you're this jacked Space Marine, of course, but everything that you do with like whenever it's a first person cutscene, he's like taking out batteries that are like huge, like kettlebell, like 200-pound kettlebell.
He's just working out
things. Yeah. And that's what I envision whenever I've been listening to it. And we have a home gym right here, so
I know you do. I know you do. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm jealous. I am jealous. That's real. I do want to say I actually forgot to mention this to you. I tried downloading Doom Eternal weeks ago to my Xbox, and it'll only download the battle mode, and I don't know why. I even Googled it to see if this is a recurring problem, and I haven't seen anything about it.
So did you download it and play it?
No, it wouldn't let me get into it.
Okay, because when I downloaded on my PC, it says Doom Eternal Battle Mode, but it's the actual game.
But do you have to create an account to play, like a id account or something?
No, you can skip that.
Okay, well, it was like forcing me to do it, and then when I tried to do it, it said it wasn't working. Like I was getting an error message, so I never actually got to play it.
This is for Doom Eternal?
Doom Eternal. Okay. But because of that, I think I'm actually going to go to Doom 2016 and give that a shot instead. So
delete whatever you have and then try again and see if it works. Because I kept getting it and it said battle mode and I was like, I don't want to play the multiplayer. I want to play the game.
Yeah.
But when I launched it, it was the game.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll have to give it another shot. I might jump into Doom 2016. I mean, it's not like there's another first-person shooter with a guy in green armor coming out, right? Like, I might as well get into Doom.
Right.
yeah. But that's pretty much what I've been playing this week. So I think without further ado, let's get into our list.
Sounds good.
All right, Brian.
It's for the video watchers.
I know it is. I'm sure they'll be really, really happy with that.
Yes.
So yeah, once again, we are doing our top 10 conspiracy theories. I think it's just kind of, urban legends can be incorporated into this. There aren't a ton out there to choose from, so I think we could have some liberties with the topic here. That being said, I'll just go ahead and go with my honorable mention, which is Ben drowned.
Yeah.
Did you hear Ben drowned?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This was one of the first kind of conspiracy theories I had heard of.
Yeah. So I think it's fairly well known now that it is just a creepypasta.
Right.
That it's fiction someone wrote for the internet. But at the time, I have a few friends that at least they didn't buy into it being true, but there was enough belief there that they were like, it could be true.
Yeah,
could be. We don't know. And now obviously we're on the other side of it. But during like I think it was like the early 2010s when this was coming out, it was a big deal around the internet. This guy was writing on a forum. I think it was 4chan about how he went off to college and found a haunted, well, he didn't know at the time. He thought it was just a weird Majora's Mask cartridge.
Yeah.
And like the game would glitch out and restart the first day with a glitch. And
it would change the name of the file.
Right. And there would be nobody in Clocktown when he restarted. And there were all these like eerie things happening with the Skull Kid and this and that. Well, it ends up he was able to like follow this trail of what happened to discover that it was once owned by a person named Ben who was about his age, who drowned, and his spirit was inhabiting the game cartridge, right? But this unfolded over like I think maybe years of posts from this person. So it was very interesting at the time. And now, like I said, it's well known that it's a creepypasta. And honestly, like looking back at it, some of the things were like, that he would write was like, the game cartridge was chugging along. Like it was definitely having trouble processing something. And it's like, well, game cartridges don't really work that way. You know, like,
just reads.
right. Exactly. So it was, like reading it now, it's like, man, did I really like know people who bought into this? But, but it's definitely something that I think had to be on my list.
Yeah. I think part of it was because my understanding it was a guy in his college dorm, and then there was also a roommate that was also like involved in it.
Right.
And at some point, the roommate had to take over because the first guy who started playing just like got so invested in this and depressed and thought like Ben was actually watching him and all sorts of stuff. So it was very creepy. And, and that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, we know a little better. So yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into my honorable mention. I did want to say this at the top. We have our own list off conspiracy theory going on, and it is the random mail of the Banjo Koozies. We still have not figured out who sent those because I don't recognize the handwriting. I haven't given my address to that many people, but that many people who would also know about the podcast and listen.
Yeah.
So
for those of you not familiar, someone sent us a gift. Someone sent them specifically to Brian's home address, which he's never been doxxed to our knowledge. And they were koozies for your drink, and they were Banjo Koozies. They even said with the font and everything. So they know that I like Banjo Kazooie. Well, if anybody's listened to this podcast, they know you like Banjo Kazooie.
Totally.
For sure. But yeah, if you are the mysterious individual, reach out to us because we always have our social media links in the show notes. And it would be really cool to finally discover who this mystery person was. But if you want to remain anonymous, then so be it, man. I get it. International man of mystery makes sense.
That's right. Yeah. Or woman.
Correct. I apologize. International person of mystery.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my number 11, and this one sucks. There's like no way to get around it, but it's the Columbine map that apparently was have you heard about this?
No.
Okay. So we all know the story of Columbine High School and school shooting.
Yes. Yeah.
Which sucks. But apparently there was rumor that one of the students that was involved in this played a lot of Doom, and that's always the narrative here, but more specifically that he created like custom levels in Doom that resembled the high school, so he could like basically plan this whole thing out. So it's been just rumors and kind of the media churning it up, and this was kind of at the time where these kind of things were a little more rare, and I think the media kind of latched onto that and made it a lot more than it was, because there was no real evidence that was occurring, and people have like made Doom mods in the past of these kind of things, so I guess it's entirely possible. But yeah, that was one that really seemed like it was a conspiracy at the time, and it just goes to show like how deep these things can penetrate the real like larger world.
Oh yeah, especially when people believe like video games are a source of this violence,
exactly.
They'll anything like if even the slightest rumor of something like this comes out, people will inevitably run with it and latch onto it and repeat it even though they're not sure it's true. And I was unaware of this.
So that's given recent events, it sucks even more. But I mean, I think these are real issues that we shouldn't hide away from, and it's worth talking about. But yeah, this one was a weird one to come across. But yeah, I remember kind of hearing rumor of it, and here we are. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Moving into our list.
I promise the rest of mine aren't like heavy like that.
No, you're fine. It's like I don't want to say, hey, like good entry,
right?
Because like there's a lot tied to that for sure.
Exactly.
So have you ever heard of the video game Madden.
John Madden.
John Madden's football.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so there's the Madden curse. I'm sure everybody is familiar with this.
Oh yeah,
yeah, the Madden curse. Apparently, if you appear on the cover of a Madden football game, you will do terribly the next season,
or injure yourself,
right? Or injure yourself, which is typically the case. So you usually get the cover because you had a stellar season the year prior. The perfect example is former running back for the Cleveland Browns, Peyton Hillis. This guy was a backup running back, came out of nowhere, had like a career year by anyone's standards. I mean, forget the fact that nobody had even heard of him prior to, I think 2011, right? Then he goes in, 2010 was his great year. But he gets on the cover of Madden 2012, goes into that season, right? He only plays 10 games. He misses 6 games with a hamstring injury, right? He runs for 587 yards out of the 10 games that he played. But because of how many carries he got, it's only like 3.6 yards per carry, which is awful for an NFL running back. There are some other phenomenal examples. Rob Gronkowski made the cover. He's a tight end for the Tampa Bay Bucks now, but he made the cover when he was on the New England Patriots. Only played 8 games the next season. Mediocre stat line. Possibly the best example is Mike Vick. It's not the dog thing. Which,
okay.
Like, by the way, completely F Mike Vick for that.
Right.
Like, I can't believe people think it's somehow forgivable. Like, he should have never got back in the NFL and should have never been a star. Like, sorry. I don't care how good you could throw a football. Like, that doesn't justify any of that. Anyway, he was in the early 2000s. He made the cover of Madden. Next season, he only played 5 games and had like a terrible stat line as well. So this is something that there may be some credence to. There are other examples, many, many other examples, but those are probably the 3 biggest ones. Obviously, come on, like, you don't make the cover of a video game and all of a sudden you're terrible for it, or like more injury prone for it, right? So it's definitely what I would consider a conspiracy theory.
Sure,
but a lot of people latch onto this one and think there's truth to it. Yeah. But seriously, like, Mike Vick sucks.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
All right, good pick. I completely forgot about that one, but that's a really good example of something's going on here that doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's the pressure they put on themselves as athletes. Like, I just like got this. It's a big thing to make the cover of Madden, so maybe they're like, I got to do even better the next year, and they push themselves. Who knows? Like, there are all these other. Nobody thinks of the possible reasons, right? Sure. It's just like, no, it's because they made the cover of a video game. That's why.
Oh yeah,
like, that's why it happens. Come on, yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. All right. Well, my number 10 is the 17th Colossus. So
this is a good one.
There are only 16 Colossi in Shadow of the Colossus for PlayStation 2, but many, many people thought that there was a rumored 17th Colossus, and apparently there were many more planned for the game. Right. I think there were like 64 that they wanted to get in there, but then
is that because it was originally going to be a Nintendo 64 game?
No,
I'm kidding.
But at some point they realized, nope, the PlayStation 2 cannot handle this many things.
It was going to be Colossi 64. I'm sorry.
That would have been good.
I'm sorry.
Could you imagine an N64 version of Shadow of the Colossus?
No.
It would look like butt. That would be bad.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, so the way you get the 17th Colossus is you have to climb the Shrine of Worship, which I think is that thing that I was talking to you about. The other time. Yeah. Where it's just like the top of the tower.
Right.
So that like they're up there basically. Others claim that there's a boar that appears at the top of the shrine, and then you have to push it through a hole in the roof.
Oh wow.
So it's like people latching on to like different aspects of this shrine, I guess. There's one person said, no, there's a sea serpent that if you swim far enough in the ocean, like you'll come across it. So like all these different like, okay, I'll go try that for 2 hours and see what happens.
I know there was like a subreddit or some sort of internet forum where people like a group of people got together and latched onto this for years and were able to actually get to the higher parts of the tower, which people hadn't thought was possible in game prior to them doing it. But nothing ever came of it. But no, it's a good pick. Like this definitely had weight for a long time. But
one other thing. So now in this day and age, people can just go into the game files and see what's actually in there and find out if anything like this exists. They didn't. There's no hidden colossi, but there were textures that were of like, it looks like it should be of a colossus, and they're named Sirius and Dianon. So there obviously is something in there that they wanted to put but never got around to, or just couldn't due to constraints.
So very cool. Very cool. Sirius Black.
That's right.
A good pick, man. God, I love that game. So my number 9 is that there is a mystery buried in the desert in New Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was the video game crash of the early 80s. The game that was responsible for this crash, at least the one that gets all the blame, is E.T. for the Atari.
Right.
And apparently there were so many copies of this that they couldn't get rid of that they buried them in the middle of the New Mexico desert. And this was an unbelievable conspiracy theory for a very long time. I remember it started getting traction in like the late 90s, early 2000s, at least to my knowledge, right? When I started becoming aware of this, right? I was familiar with E.T. and all its pains prior to that.
Sure. I saw it in EGM first.
Right. The rumor, right?
Yeah.
And it was like not really believable. A lot of people didn't believe this for a very long time. I was one of them. I was like, yeah, come on, like that many copies buried in them. Like they wouldn't do that, right? They would just like, I don't know, put them in a landfill or go like actually like put them in stores. And what's the worst that could happen? They don't sell.
Well, Atari denied it, didn't they?
They did deny it.
They just said like, nope, not true.
Yeah. Someone went out there, like raised funds to go dig where they believed this site to be. And guess what they found, Brian? They found thousands of copies.
Hundreds of thousands
of copies of E.T. buried in the New Mexico desert. It was real. It was real. This is astonishing to me. I love this. I absolutely love this because it was like, it was that conspiracy theory. It was that urban legend. And it was like, I scoffed at it. Like I had my own personal, like, yeah, right. with this, and then it was true, and it was it's the best thing ever. I think it's funny because this news occurred a few years ago, probably like 5 years ago now, if not more. And nobody talks about it anymore. But man, this is like, it's a huge thing.
It is
that this actually happened. Anyway,
we finally got confirmation on that one, which is it's crazy,
wild.
But they were actually there. They did a whole documentary on it. So someone must have like gotten enough feedback or tips that they were like, they're out, probably out there.
I think that's what it was, is that Atari said it didn't happen, but they knew people who worked for Atari at the time. And then like enough of them were like, no, like it's there, dude. Like, all you got to do is dig. And
I mean, that's astonishing too, just to like find where that is.
Right.
It's a big desert and you could just dig anywhere. Like how deep do you dig? Where exactly do you even start? So that's astonishing.
It's cool, man. I love it.
Very good choice. All right. My number 9 is a unicorn fountain in Ocarina of Time. So I came across this one and it had like a screenshot associated with it. And I was completely unaware of it. But apparently in the early development stages of Ocarina of Time, there was this room called the Unicorn Fountain. And it's just like this, like 3 different unicorn things and a fountain in the middle. But it's not in the actual game. But people claimed that you could find it in the game. So there were all these breadcrumb trails that people are trying to make something out of.
In the vastness of Ocarina of Time's world.
Right. Which, at the time people were scouring it. It is pretty big. But one person was saying there's a mysterious, inaccessible tunnel located underneath the ice in Zora's domain.
Oh, interesting.
So apparently part of this whole unicorn fountain is the sword beam is available there, which is the power up that you can get in most other Zelda adventures, not this one. So people were looking for that as like a potential thing that you get from it. But again, we have hacked the game. There's nothing there. The tunnel that does exist is just a dead end. So people have kind of like clipped through the level and seen like, nope, nothing there.
Boundary break.
Yeah. So it's that's the cool thing about these games is like when they're you see something, and it's not on my list, but like the notorious ice key in Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, right.
You see it, but you cannot get to it.
Right.
And there's like enough hints like, yes, I see the geometry of that room. I can look in there in first person and see like they developed this, that there's like collision and things happening in there, but you can't get in there. And same thing with this one.
Yeah, that back in the day too, not to be like back in our day, but seriously, there was this like, I don't know, a fervor that surrounded it. Like you were convinced that there had to be a way in there, and there was no way to verify that, and then you'd have like the thing I was saying with Final Fantasy, where the guy's like, I ran into so-and-so in these woods. You'd always have that one person who's like, no, dude, you could get in there. I did it. And you'd just become even more determined to do it.
Yeah.
Not knowing it was in fact impossible. But yeah.
Well, you're gonna trust your friends. Like, why would you not?
I know. Liars. No, I'm kidding. I love my friends. I love my one friend, Brian.
Yeah.
It's you, buddy.
I'm not the one who told you about Final Fantasy. So
no, you're not. That's true. That's true.
That is not a friend anymore.
That's why you're still my friend. Yeah, gotcha. Exactly. So my number 8 is one that came to my attention in the last week. As you know, there was a recent release of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
That sounds right.
Is that right? All right.
Yeah.
Yep. Got to brush up on my Pokemon. So, this comes courtesy of the Play Along podcast. They were mentioning that there was a rumor that you could hold certain buttons that would make it easier to catch Pokemon. So you would hold like up and A when you throw it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there was also a thread on Twitter where, a few other people got involved where they were saying, oh, for me, it was down and B. For me, it was up and A. For me, it was this button and that button. And this
for me, it was like mash the button as hard as you possibly can.
Right. And I think this is so cool, man. That there were all these different like urban legends, conspiracy theories, probably for regional, they were all different, right? And like even micro regions, it probably wasn't like, oh, if you're on the East Coast, it's up in A. It's probably like, no, like if you're in this town, it was up in A, but the next town could think it's just like mash A to catch the Pokemon. But probably none of them worked. I'm willing to bet.
I can almost guarantee.
Yeah. But it's funny because I also think back to playing Pokemon, and there's definitely like you'll catch 3 in a row with no misses, right? So if you're doing the same thing to catch those 3, you'll think, this actually does help, right? It would just cement your belief that it's a real thing.
Exactly.
But this was really cool. It was very timely to hear about it now, because I was like, this is going to go on my list. Like, this is not something that I had experienced. I wasn't really like, I was a little older when I started playing Pokemon. So I had never heard these little rumors about making it easier to catch them. But it's really,
I feel like cool. I still press certain buttons if I'm playing a modern game. Yeah,
that's cool. yeah I thought this was a fun one.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, my number 8 is the ET Atari landfill.
Oh, nice.
Fiasco. So not much else to say, but there was former Atari manager James Heller supervised the burial back in 1983, was present at the public event, and claimed only 728,000 copies were buried rather than the millions. And there were other games. It was Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man,
I'm sure,
cartridges.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it would make sense that it wouldn't all be ET, right?
Right.
Right. They had to have a surplus of many titles.
Exactly.
But I like that he's like, no, it's not like a million, guys. It's 728,000.
Right.
Okay. It's pretty much like pretty close, dude. You're most of the way there,
Exactly.
Like, it's still like a crazy amount of games buried in the desert. What? Yeah.
Do we know what happened to those games? Like, did they just like push the dirt back over them?
Well, I do remember seeing, God, I can't remember if people were telling me this or like how I heard about it, but I do remember hearing that they were going on eBay for like a raised value. Like an ET cartridge goes for peanuts still.
Right.
But if it was like, like from the burial ground, it had
this one
like
still has sand on it.
Right, exactly. Like just like rub your ET cartridge in the dirt and be like, oh, look, pulled out of the New Mexico desert, guys.
Yeah. That's silly.
It is silly. But I do remember hearing something like they were being sold, but who knows if that's, true, right?
Right.
So my number 7 is, did you hear Saddam Hussein was hoarding PS2s to create missile guidance systems?
No.
Yeah. So during the PS2 era, it had become newsworthy, because it's newsworthy, I guess, when PS2s get shipped to Iraq. So and certain news outlets like legitimately got caught wind of this, that thousands of PS2 units were sent there. So some created their own story that these were sent there. You know how it is now, right? People hear a news story and they run with their own ideas.
Oh yeah, they go with the headline and what that means to them.
So of course he's doing it for the processors.
Right.
Brian. Of course he is, because then he could create a missile guidance system, right? I mean, it only makes sense.
I mean, PS2 is the only kind of chip that does that. So
yeah, I mean, I'd like to think we've come a long way since then, that we now understand a missile guidance system would need much more than like some PS2 processors.
I don't know. Have you ever seen Chappie? He strings
I've never seen Chappie.
Oh man,
I love District 9, but like I heard Chappie was bad, so I skipped it.
Oh no, Chappie's great. Chappie's fantastic.
Is it though?
He strings a bunch of PS4s in like parallel and like gets the processing power. I forget what he does with them, but they probably took it from this conspiracy.
Yeah. Obviously unfounded, we now know. But apparently it couldn't possibly be that people in Iraq also want to play video games.
Right.
Like,
no
no way.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Thanks.
I've definitely heard of that before, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like in this episode, we kind of could make stuff up and just be like, oh, you didn't hear about this?
Oh.
Wait, Brian, you've never heard that, like, whatever, aliens created the PS5?
Right.
Man, this is big. This is big news. Yeah, that explains the form factor. Come on.
We need to give people directives in their games. Like, Halo Infinite's big, and I saw there's like a cave in the southwest quadrant.
That's right.
And if you press these buttons, you know.
No, it's actually that big hole in front of the base in high power. About 3/4 of the way down that hole, there's a cave, and it's just full of energy swords.
Really?
Totally full of it, but you have to go 3/4 of the way down and then grapple at the specific right angle, because it looks like there's a wall there, but there's not.
Oh, wow. And then Master Chief gets naked?
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
Well, so when we were on the map where I forget which one, it's that big open one, and there are those doors that you have to like.
Oh, right. The loot capes.
I thought you were just messing with me, because you were just standing by the door and you're like, yeah,
I'm hacking the door. Yeah, I'm hacking the door, like, dude. Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep moving on because you're crazy.
No, stay here. And then we got like good weapons, and you were right. I do remember you being like, what? Yeah, that's right. That's funny. That's funny. It was a conspiracy theory until it wasn't.
I sincerely thought you were making it up. All right. Well, my number 7, is that what we're on?
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm getting confused because my number 7 is the Majora's Mask cursed cartridge. Yeah. So bam. I don't have anything more to say about that. I had heard about it when it was happening, and then I went and read the whole thing prior to this episode.
Wow.
It's just crazy. The guy's done a AMA on Reddit, and one thing that I didn't know was that like there were instances where he was playing the game and, you know, according to the story, like images would flash on the screen.
Right.
And they were like terrifying images. And the top comment on his Reddit thread is, where did this image come from? And they linked the image, and it's just like this terrifying like picture, and it just says you shouldn't have done that. And
I've seen that. Yeah, no, I've seen that. Yeah,
right. I think it's one of the main images.
It's like a kind of like an evil looking link, right? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and that's the other thing is like whenever the Ben like drowned and all those things, a statuette of Link would appear in those areas. So it's weird stuff. And
it is.
Yeah. It definitely believable for the time. And I've had that happen to me in games where even like glitches happen, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? Like that was unexpected, and I can't explain what happened. So it must be a conspiracy.
Has to be. You have a haunted cartridge,
right?
Do you own any? Well, you own cartridges, right? Like you still have your older system. So
I have the N64. I am the steward of one of my friends' N64 collection. I have the gold N64, and then he is letting me like hold his games for him indefinitely.
It's better than being the steward of Gondor.
Because
we know how that ends up. Yep. We know how that ends up, right?
Oh man,
right. Oh.
One of these days you're just gonna see me on the roof ablaze, and I'm just gonna jump off.
Such a jerk.
Yeah,
he was such a jerk.
I love that actor. That's John Noble.
Yeah. He was great in the role.
Yeah,
when he was like eating the tomato in front of Pippin.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So good.
No, that was disgusting.
He's a Dr. Walter Bishop on Fringe.
Yeah.
I
like that character though, where he just like wants to take a bunch of hallucinogens and like go nuts. I love it. Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's how all the greatest science is done.
Don't we all want to do that, Dr. Noble? Or Jonathan Noble, isn't that his name? The real guy's name is Jonathan Noble.
Yes.
What's this character's name?
Walter Bishop. Dr. Walter Bishop.
Walter Bishop. Of course it is. So yeah, that was your number 7. So moving on to my number 6, the deadly game called Berserk. Have you heard of this? Yeah, it was an arcade game.
No. Huh.
Early 80s arcade game called Berserk. And there was a person named Peter Bukowski who went to an arcade and was playing this game and had the best scores he's ever had in the game, got the high score on the cabinet, and dropped dead of a heart attack. Yeah, this actually did happen. This actually did happen. Pretty crazy. So then it ends up there's another person in another state. I think that happened in Illinois. This was in 81. And then I think in 82 or later in 81, another person named Jeff Daly was playing a Berserk cabinet in Virginia, obtains a high score in the game, a score of 16,660, no less. So if you see how many sixes are in a row there, you might see where this is headed, and dies on the spot of mysterious causes. So people latched on to the fact that the cabinets were somehow, possessed, right? Because look at this score.
I mean, what else could it be?
I don't know what else it could be. Maybe flashing lights. All joking aside, like people did lose their lives here, so obviously, like that's terrible.
Sure.
But in the time, for a very long time, for decades, this was a conspiracy theory that there were these cabinets of Berserk people did believe were possessed or like demonic in some way and caused the death of these 2 teenagers. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but all right, because like my first thought would be, wouldn't you want to check to see, how you always get that like epilepsy warning before you start a game, something, maybe there could be reason there, something like that. And it came out years and years later that Peter Bukowski, the first victim, was very obviously not in good health when he showed up at the arcade, was labored breathing, probably all the signs of an inevitable heart attack.
Right.
So it had nothing to do with the machine. And it ends up that Jeff Daly actually did not die at arcade. He died in a car accident. But people conflated it to be this like, oh, it was an arcade game, and you know how these things happen.
Sure.
Like conspiracy theories, urban legends, they spread over time, and half truths or complete falsehoods become the norm.
Right.
So that was the case here. Luckily, we know that now. But for a long time, people like thought this game was killing people. And,
Jeez.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff though, right?
I would play it. If I had
Yeah.
heard like 10 people died playing it, I would still play it.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, did you heard? Oh, if you what was it? Gosh, what was the name of the thing? If you stand in front of a mirror and say it 5 times,
I can't do those kind of things.
you can't.
No.
Well, when I was a kid, I did it. I mean, I would equate it to this. It's like, oh, it'll kill you. And when you're a dumb kid, you're like, I'll do it. Something behind you, Brian?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of looking in the mirror right now, so
right?
I don't know.
But like, I was definitely that kid who was like, I'll do it. You know? Man. So like, of course I would have played this game, if I ever could get my ugly little mitts.
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Or
Bloody
Candyman,
Mary.
Isn't that another one?
That's a movie, but Bloody Mary was before Candyman.
Yeah. I will never do that.
I did it when I was a kid. Oof. Yeah, definitely. Like,
did anything happen?
I'm still here.
Okay.
I just have this scar. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, see? I'm freaked out now.
No way. Come on.
I'm not going to be able to sleep.
Good. We could stay up playing Halo.
Right?
Yeah.
Good pick. I wasn't aware of that one.
Thank you.
All right. Much lighter note here. My number 6 is there's a Mew under the truck.
Oh, yeah.
In Pokemon.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a near the SSN ship in Vermilion City, there's like an area that you can only access with surf, which none of your Pokemon can have surf at this point of the game. But there's like a truck on the island out there, and people have claimed that, oh, like you can get surf if you do this, that, and the other. And if you go out there, there's a Mew that's just like under the truck, which when this game came out, Mew wasn't available unless Nintendo put him on your cartridge specifically. So yeah, people were saying everything under the sun to get people to do this trick. Basically,
you just have to stand next to that truck for 5 hours straight,
right?
Yeah.
There were things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to get it. But yeah, not an actual thing. But the thing I want to bring up is subsequent releases of Pokemon that I guess it would be. This is the original Pokemon, so isn't that the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee?
Yeah,
that's a recreation of those games. And even like Fire Red and Leaf Green, I think same thing, are the original Pokemon games.
Sure.
They have references to this rumor,
cool.
Basically.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Yeah, there's sometimes I think that
tongue
even
in cheek there.
Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus did a similar thing, I believe, where like the subsequent releases kind of hint at, yeah, we know you guys were trying to do these, and here's a little Easter egg for you at that point.
The 17th Colossi, wasn't there like a fallen statue in the temple of a 17th Colossi? It wasn't there something anyway? Maybe
I think there were things. Yeah, that's right. There was like a broken one,
right?
And I think that's probably what sparked people like, well, there's a whole statue here. Obviously, there's something going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Good pick though, Pokemon.
Thank you. Yeah.
So my number 5, Brian, is the game Kill Switch. Have you heard about this?
I've heard of Kill Switch. I don't know.
So it's not. There is a real game called Kill Switch now, but this was a urban legend of a game from the 80s called Kill Switch. That apparently it was a game about escaping a haunted mine filled with like demons. You could either play as the woman trying to escape or like the demon trying to stop her. But it would, as soon as you beat the game. So if you played as the woman, I think you would have to beat the game by playing as a woman, is my understanding. And you're trying to escape this mine. And as soon as you like see light shining in from outside, the game would delete itself. It would make itself you're unable to play it at all after that. So you beat the game and the game is gone. Right.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Kojima.
Right, before Kojima. Well, not really before. Anyway, yes,
Yeah.
Kojima. But this was like, people believed this for the longest time. People still believe it. Apparently, there are rumors that an unfinished copy of Kill Switch went on eBay and sold for like $170,000 or something like that. I don't have the number, but it was like a ton, because obviously you can only play the game once. So an unfinished game of it would be worth a lot of money, right?
I see.
But yeah, it's such an interesting idea. I don't think this is real. It is something that people do still believe to this day.
Wow.
That there was a game called Kill Switch, and it is somewhere out there in existence. And it's funny because I've been wrong before. There's games like the ET Desert thing where it's like, and I just don't know how they even have the name of like the supposed developer of this game. So there are some clues that this might have some truth to it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. How would they solve this problem? Like, how would they create a game that deletes itself in the days of like the NES, basically?
Right. We don't get things like this anymore with the internet and developers.
No.
This is just an ARG at this point,
right?
know?
Right. Yeah. Because if there was something like that, now people would just rip the game. Like, and make it free for everybody, right? Like, yeah. But I think it's interesting. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
So I guess we kind of do get this every once in a while in the early days of games, like before, when everyone's playing for the first time, and then people start finding things, and then it's just everywhere. Yeah. So, like, I feel like in Halo, we're gonna see something, because it's it's a big map, and I'm not gonna explore the whole thing, but there are gonna be people who just scour it and then probably find different things on it.
I mean, I kind of love it though, because even when you think you discovered it all, you didn't. There's always stuff that comes out new. I mean, there was just a huge skip discovered in the original Final Fantasy VII that blew speedrunners' minds. It was something like nobody knew was there. And I mean, that's what, 20 years later?
Right.
It's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
More than 20 years. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I spent my time. This isn't on my list, but in Halo 2, there were some really big sprawling maps, like massive. Mm-hmm. And there was geometry out there, and you could tell it was actually there. And I remember just like taking a ghost and trying like over and over again to get over these hills, and eventually you could. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like sprawling like greens, and there was like a big lake, and you could go all the way around, and you could go from one end of the map to the other. And you just like could drive around. There wasn't anything out there, but there could have been. Right. I just went all the way out there. All right. Well, my number 5, speaking of EGM and what kind of things that they pulled, this was an April Fool's Day prank. This one got me because I had this issue, and I forget which it was basically when Melee came out, where EGM said, yeah, totally, Sonic and Tails in Melee. You can play as them, but you have to. Okay, let me get here.
I just get ready for this.
Right. So you have to defeat 20 enemies in the game's cruel melee mode, which was like notoriously difficult. Doing so would cause Sonic and Tails to appear and fight the player simultaneously. And like they were notoriously hard to beat. So EGM, like, obviously this is a joke, and it's in their April Fool's Day issue.
Jokes on them.
Exactly. Well, halfway.
Yeah.
We got Sonic.
We got Sonic.
Yeah. But apparently Sonic creator Yuji Naka claimed in an interview that Sonic was planned to be in Melee, but was cut due to time constraints. And then he was in Brawl. So like, I mean, those were back-to-back releases. So, there's some merit to, hey, maybe they really did want Sonic in there, and that was around the fall of the Dreamcast, and it kind of lines up that, hey, maybe they were thinking about doing that. But yeah, that really sparked my curiosity when that was unfolding.
Yeah, I always seem to get caught with like one April Fool's joke a year,
right?
Because like I tend to look at my Google News thread in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee, and I'm not a big practical joker, so inevitably I wake up not knowing it's April Fool's, and
Oh,
I'll be
no.
scrolling through and I'll be like, what? Like a Legend of Zelda TV show. And
Yeah. It's always cool stuff too. Like, you guys
why
should
can't
make
we do this? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, man. Exactly. It's
Uh,
cruel. It's cruel. It's a cruel fate.
One of the ones that got me was someone, I forget which company. It was like one of the geek.com, or I forget which one. But it was the Lost alarm clock. So it would be the Lost like hieroglyphics that would do the numbers and everything.
Oh, that's cool.
And you had to enter the numbers to get the alarm to stop. And I wanted it so bad, but it was an April Fool's joke.
That would have been cool. It would have been cool. Yeah, for sure.
I would have bought that.
Especially if it was like limited supply, then you don't lose money for making it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I get to wake up to that alarm blaring every morning. Yeah. Wait, no, that was the other thing about it. It was every 108 minutes it would go off. So you would actually terrible. Have to. Yeah.
What a terrible idea.
That would be bad.
I just want this big wheel where I could turn the island.
Yes.
That would
make it perfect. Warp around.
Yeah, of course. Like,
that would be cool.
No, it would. It wasn't. It wasn't cool.
You end up in Tunisia after that, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, who knows? They didn't know where they were going. I'll tell you that much. So anyway, my number 4, we've talked about it before on the podcast, so I won't go into much detail, but it is the Lavender Town music and suicides.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, apparently the original release of Pokemon. Yeah. Pokemon Lavender Town. The music had this like pitch that would drive children to hurt themselves and commit suicide, and there was such a string
pitches only children could hear because of their auditory range.
Right, and there was such a string of this occurring that they had to change the audio in the original game, so that this didn't happen. And yes, I will say this is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
I will go ahead and say like
it's eerie music though, for sure.
It is eerie music. Yeah, no, I used it for a soundbite a while back, and maybe I'll do it again. Maybe not, but
listeners under 6 beware.
Yeah.
Good pick.
That's
I
it.
like it.
Yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah, we've talked about it before. I don't remember which episode, but
I can't either. But so my number 4 is, I mentioned it before, but it's Nude Raider. So this is
Dude Raider,
not Dude Raider, but Nude Raider. I didn't know this part about it, but in the original Tomb Raider game, when exiting Lara's pool, so this was the thing that got people stirred up. After she exits the pool, she says, "Now I'd better take off these wet clothes." So obviously that means I need to try everything possible to make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no way to get a naked Lara Croft. Much to everyone's chagrin.
Can you believe like so many people wanted to see that like polygonal mess naked? Like
this was kind of pre-internet, so you know people were dying, I guess.
I almost had entry on my list for nude codes, like a general nude code entry, because it was like a thing. People thought this existed in game for not just Tomb Raider. It was like multiple games.
There's an entire game based around this. BMX XXX.
Yeah.
People were so. that game actually does contain nudity.
But I don't know if I don't even know if it has anybody with clothes on.
Right.
I don't.
Well, no, you have to. I think you have to like beat it or beat parts of it, and then you unlock.
That's the motivation.
Yeah.
God. Man. Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I guess. So, a few of my top 3 kind of transcend gaming in some ways, but definitely involve gaming. So my number 3 is Cicada 3301. Are you familiar with this?
Never heard of this.
Oh my God, get out of town. You haven't heard of this? I was not prepared to give like an in-depth explanation of what this is. Basically, this is a puzzle that releases on the internet every year in January. And it's a picture of a cicada, and there are clues in the picture to find the next clue. Okay. And this then leads to bigger clues where you have to have knowledge of like Mayan characters, like this like random knowledge that goes from everywhere to like computer programming to ancient languages to like religious theory. It's like all over the board.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a string of clue after clue after clue. And eventually, like, you have to go, then it incorporates the real world where there are QR codes in like 14 different locations across the globe that you have to scan, and it like leads you to the next one, blah, blah, blah. Nobody really knows what the end of this puzzle is, but there was someone who got extremely close. And then there's also a person who claims to have gotten through these puzzles and actually been in touch with Cicada, who is the name the internet created for whoever puts this puzzle out here. According to this person, they don't actually go by a name. They don't have a symbol or a name. They're just like an anonymous group. Not anonymous, though. Not anonymous. Right. Not related to that. This comes from a Fast Company article. That's the name of the publication. It's on the internet if you want to look it up. But yeah, it's so here it goes. It includes steganography, cryptography, ancient Mayan numerology, detailed understandings of 18th century European literature, and even cyberpunk speculative fiction. Like, that's the range of the puzzles that you're dealing with here. And that was just for last year's puzzle, they say. But the person who solved it goes by the handle Technology. It's TEKKNOLAGI. So not how you'd spell it, but like, hey, we'll let it slide. Seems like a smart lad if he was able to solve this. Apparently, Cicada has a home on the dark web where they meet remotely, and there are chat rooms, and also they kind of have like a bulletin board where they put up bigger projects. There are many theories about who this group is, ranging from a terrorist organization, a recruiting front for like the NSA or other like spy agencies. But according to this person who claims to have reached the end of the puzzle, they just release open source software for people to use. And they're apparently just a group of individuals who believe in privacy and internet freedom. He does go on to say that even though this seems to be their like statement of like their modus operandi, right? Like how they go about their business, he got an eerie feeling from all of them. They all talk a big like, oh, we got people in Wired magazine. You like, we could get you published there. Like they talk as though they have hands everywhere across the globe. They might even be listening right now for all we know.
Jeez.
Right? Good thing I'm cool. Like, good thing I love you guys. But no, it's interesting. This is a real puzzle that exists. The conspiracy theory surrounds who is behind the puzzle more than anything. Which, like, who knows? This person could be telling the truth. The person who did the interview and wrote the article claims to have verified that based off of technology's background, they definitely seemed like an individual capable of solving the puzzle. So if you believe the person doing the interview, then maybe he did reach the end of it. And maybe it is just this, group of individual computer programmers that believe in internet privacy.
Right.
But who really knows what this? I am so surprised you've never heard of this.
No.
I was into this like 5-10 years ago.
Like you were trying to solve it?
No, come on, dude. Okay. I do not have the skills to solve this, but like I would follow who got the farthest that year and that sort of thing for at least a few years. I was following that information.
Wow.
And it was so cool whenever another step would be reached, because it was like, it just blew the doors off. Now, like, oh my God, there are QR codes in the real world. And like, it was always, the next step was just this grander puzzle to be solved. It's people incredible stuff.
Sharing information on it?
So that's one rule, is that you can't. What? So people do, but there have been times people reach the end of that year's puzzle and it leads you to like a location on the internet, and it basically says like, sorry, like we closed this year. Nobody's allowed to join because people like they found evidence of people sharing information online.
I see.
So yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a real thing too. I'm so surprised you hadn't heard of this.
No.
Wow.
Cue the unlicensed X-Files music now.
Well, we could just use the license. I guess we need unlicensed, don't we? Yeah, all right.
Some MIDI version of it.
Yeah. We could just whistle.
Right? All right. Well, not much is going to top that. That's crazy.
That's my number 3.
That. I know. Okay. Well, for my number 3, I've got Hangin' Luigi. Have you heard of this one? Because I hadn't.
No.
All right. Well, this is just regular Luigi's Mansion, but in the telephone room.
I have heard of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
When Luigi receives a phone call from Professor Egad, lightning will strike, and it illuminates the room, and Luigi's shadow appears on the wall. And from a certain perspective, it looks like Luigi is like hanged, basically. And the screenshot makes it look very legitimate. Like this looks like they wanted you to think Luigi has been hanged. But it apparently is just some sort of glitch that it's like an abnormal camera. That'll happen in games where the shadow like freaks out.
Yeah, I think the developer came out and said that, right?
Exactly.
Somebody who worked on the game.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. We're Nintendo. We wouldn't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, the screenshot that I saw, it looks very much like, Luigi's shadow was hanged.
Jeez, man.
So
crazy. Whoever did that to Luigi, how dare you?
Right?
Luigi is a gift to us all.
He is.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. We agree on something.
Luigi's fine. Mario's clearly superior in every single way.
So wrong. So wrong. So wrong. Actually, you are like literally wrong, because Mario is not better in every single way.
Name one thing Luigi is better at than Mario.
Vacuuming. Jumping. That's two things. Yeah,
Mario can triple jump. Can Luigi do that?
Luigi can jump higher. Luigi can jump higher.
He can jump higher, but I don't want to ever jump as Luigi. It feels gross.
Oh my God.
It feels like he's just fluttering there.
Plug your ears, Luigi, if you're listening. Don't listen to this guy.
I want Mario's jumps. That feels good.
I don't. Mario's evil.
He's pretty evil.
He is, yeah. So moving on to my number 2.
Yes.
Okay. Here we go, buddy. So my number 2 isn't a video game, isn't really related to games, aside from the fact that a game designer, Adrian Hahn, has argued that QAnon works like an adventure game. Are you familiar with QAnon, Brian?
Yes, I am. Of course.
Unfortunately, right?
Yes.
So he basically equated it to the fact that like the reason QAnon catches on with people is because people chase real world clues down rabbit holes to unrealistic conclusions. Basically, this guy, Q, leaves cryptic messages and his followers pore over these messages to find meaning and then follow those imagined clues to conclude things like the Democrats are cannibals and vaccines will make you a robot. I don't know what they actually believe.
Right.
Like, who the heck knows? But the world's flat. I don't know. Is that something they believe? It seems like
people believe that for sure.
Yeah. But it is an environment similar to solving in-game puzzles with a group of people. And I think that's also one of the reasons people join groups like this. And it's something that, Adrian Hahn mentions as well, is that they're welcoming. They always encourage these new ideas, and no idea is too ridiculous. So it really like creates this environment where people are getting some sort of a social interaction, and maybe they're not getting that sort of social interaction elsewhere. So it means something. They have a group of friends now, and a group of friends who believe similar things, and then it could just latch on and follow it even deeper down the rabbit hole, where like things that don't apply to it all of a sudden now apply to it. So they're twisting ideas and knowledge to fit a narrative. And I'm not trying to be political here. I do understand it sounds
we just
like
lost all of our QAnon listeners.
Them's the breaks, right?
Good riddance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, it saddens me that this is a thing. But when you read the stuff that Adrian Hon has written, it just makes complete sense how people would allow themselves to fall into this trap.
Yeah.
And man, there is no bigger hive for conspiracy theories right now than this. And it's dangerous, man. If people like start believing things like this and not the truth, that is extremely dangerous. So I do realize we're a video game podcast, and this does incorporate game theory in a lot of ways. And I do recommend that people read up more on it so that you potentially avoid such pitfalls yourself.
I mean,
although I do think like most people wouldn't, fall into this, right? Like,
I mean, all those cicada people are doing the same exact thing you just described.
Stop it, though. I mean, and who knows? Like, the difference is the thing cicadas doing is just puzzle solving. It's not anything that's harmful. They're not They're putting not out false information. Yeah, exactly. And pushing a narrative. Right. Exactly. Exactly. If you're a believer in QAnon, I really don't care if you listen to this podcast. Like, you could leave. I'm good with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. There, I said it.
All right. Well, let's get to my number 2. Polybius. I was unaware of this. Are you aware of this in any way, shape, or form?
I do know what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a fictional arcade game. Apparently,
well, is it?
I don't know. Apparently, it was dropped in all sorts of arcades. When I think Portland was the main area. Just arcade machines in the early 2000s, and there would be people. I mean, that's what it says here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. The urban legend started in the early 2000s, but yeah, it must have been the 80s where the arcades were being plopped down.
Yeah.
Because if someone was plopping down arcade machines in the early 2000s, I think we would all take notice.
Yeah, that would definitely be.
Yeah. What is going on?
Right. This is mind control.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's what it was. Is these arcade machines started plopping up, and apparently there were like men in black, basically that were around the machines, collecting whatever data they could from it, because they were supposedly looking at government. It was basically a government experiment to test the effects of subliminal messages and the psychoactive effects that gamers have while they're playing. And they wanted to witness this and see exactly how it was. But there are no Polybius machines. There is no game. Like, there's no evidence of any of this. But maybe we'll see. If there are. Yeah, maybe one will turn up in the wild. You never know. But I think the point that I like about this is subliminal messaging in games. That's something to explore. I feel like you could get away with a lot. And I mean, that's the whole point of games, is like leading the gamer to do things and to like test things out and see what you can get them to do.
Right.
I mean, especially in like a single player game, the game has the profound ability to lead you to take certain actions. I think like even like something like Red Dead, where I'm making this up, but like, let's say like you hop in upon the like someone running out by the train tracks, and then the game like puts some rope there, and then it gives you the option to like get them in hog time.
Right.
Oh, like the moment you do that, a train just happens to come. So the game can kind of push you to do certain things. And like, are you really going to do this? Are you going to put this person on the track and see them get run over? And so
no, it's cool.
That's certainly some collection of the human psyche could be done in games there. So
absolutely 100%. No, that's a great pick, man. Great pick. So that's it. We're at our number ones here. So let's head into our number ones and wrap up.
Okie doke.
All right, Brian. My number one.
Okay.
Is Polybius.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, of course it is. Cool. Yeah, of course it is. So yeah, the urban legend was around this early 1980s. These games were being dropped in arcades in Portland, Oregon, as you say, mostly around the Pacific Northwest. And you hit the nail on the head with everything you said, that it was like very mysterious. Government figures were dropping these off and then monitoring the machines. And I think it's definitely not something that happened, but you do hear about these strange government programs where they fed people, psychoactive drugs to see if they could influence mind control. And like, that's a real thing that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a conspiracy theory for a very long time before it came out that like, this was a very real thing that happened.
Right.
So the fact that there's no proof of Polybius doesn't really say much to me as far as it not being possible, right? Like I personally do not think this happened, right? But could it have? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, would the government, especially the thing that kills me is that it was limited, right? It was a limited thing in a limited area. So yeah, it's very conceivable that these machines could have been dropped off, monitored for a short period of time, and removed. People, even there are first party accounts where people swear they saw these in arcades, in the local arcade in the Pacific Northwest, and swear they even played the machine and talk about the feeling that playing it gave them and things like that. Personally, as I said, I don't think there's merit to these actually existing, but it is fun and it's made an influence on pop culture. Recently, Loki on Disney Plus, the alternate timeline. One of the alternate timelines. I don't want to give spoilers for that show, but
I need to know because
you didn't.
I watched the whole thing, but I don't remember.
So one of the later episodes, they all end up in a place where there are multiple Lokis.
Yes,
that's not a spoiler, is it?
No.
So when they arrive in that place, there's a Polybius machine in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
It's so cool, and it's been referenced in other pop culture as well, but nothing else really comes to mind. That's the most recent one that I can think of as well. But
I need to see that.
I think it's great. I love conspiracy theories, not because obviously like spreading false information could be very harmful, but they could be fun. These can be fun. I think it's important not to lose sight of that. Some of the ones just create an air of mystery to the world that the world needs. Obviously when it's something that science and knowledgeable people in a specific field have proven to be false, that's got to be the point where it stops.
Right.
But for something like Polybius, it's just fun to speculate, right?
Yeah.
Do I think it happened? No, but could it have? Absolutely. Same with like the ET one. Before it was uncovered that it actually did happen, it was just this fun idea, and it creates like this idea of a treasure hunt in the real world, and this idea of bringing some sense of like magic to the world. And I really like that about urban legends and conspiracy theories. Obviously, the parts I don't like are the harmful ones. And unfortunately, it seems like you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone always takes it a little too far, it seems.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Polybius, man, it's a great one.
Yeah.
All-time classic.
That's one that I wanted to like look into more because it was so like what the feelings that you get when you're playing this game. Like, how can a game make like elicit those responses in someone? So
I mean, who knows?
That's whack. That's wacky.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool. You had heard of that, but prior to researching this episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I had
cool.
heard bits and pieces. I would not have caught it in Loki, for instance, but yeah, that's cool. I need to see that reference now.
Yeah, you should. I'm sure if you Googled it, it would come right up.
Oh yeah, so, sure.
You don't have to sit through the whole season again.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, my number one is Cooking Mama Cookstar. Do you know anything about this? This is a very recent one.
There's a real game called
Cooking This is a real game.
Yeah.
That was put onto the eShop.
Right.
Not anymore. They took it off. They took it off pretty quickly. And they took it off because there were a lot of people reporting that it was making their Switches really hot. And like abnormally hot. And the Switch, it gets pretty hot anyway because it's a handheld and whatnot. Right. But this was like burning people's hands. It was so hot to hold. And many people, and then many more people started latching on, were convinced that their Nintendo Switches were being used to mine cryptocurrency.
Huh.
And so that narrative was happening. Then the game got taken down. So it seemed like, wait, you guys took this game down after we had reports of this. There was no explanation for why they took it down. The developers got on there and said, like, that's ridiculous. We're not doing anything like that. But it's really weird that they would take the game completely off sale after this happened. So.
I agree. However, the power of a Nintendo Switch mining cryptocurrency is laughable. Right. It's laughable.
Totally.
Like, you earn peanuts with a single 3080.
Right.
You know, like, you're going to earn a couple, like maybe $2 a day.
Sure.
So,
but if you got all those, 90 million Switches working, I mean,
how many people bought cooking?
No, exactly. Yes. Okay, not 90 million.
Yeah. But I do like the idea of it. I was thinking when you first mentioned, like, oh, Switches were getting abnormally hot, I'm like, oh my God, did people think like somehow the heat from the kitchen in the game was coming out the Switch or something? like they programmed it in 4D or something, right? Yeah.
But that's the thing. I mean, no one really knows what is installed, like, especially on a PC. Right. Anyone could be dropping whatever they want into my system. I mean, if they got something past Steam, it doesn't happen, thankfully, but they could. If there was a malicious developer, they could cause some serious problems.
Oh man, if it was like Bethesda and Skyrim, we would all be in trouble. All of our systems would be in trouble.
Turns out that's what is it the Legendary Edition? Is that the newest one?
Oh yeah,
the Anniversary Edition. Turns out the only thing they included in there that's new is some sort of crypto mining.
That's
apparatus.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect for them.
Exactly.
Man, this was a fun episode. It had its moments, right? Obviously, like some more serious topics came up, but we appreciate you guys sticking with us. As always, feel free to follow us on social media. Twitter, we're at listoff_podcast. Instagram, we're at listoffpodcast. We have an email, listoffpodcast@gmail.com, and we have merch, and all that'll be in the show notes below. We have an episode for next week, Brian.
Yes, we do.
You told me, and I'm blanking.
It's the top 10 game trailers.
Oh,
so those trailers that really made us go wild.
Yeah,
when we saw them.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to put together for sure.
There's a lot of good trailers out there. Like they come to mind immediately. So
I know it's going to be hard getting it down to 10. I think. Yeah, for sure. But as always, guys, we hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Goodbye.